I'll do it instead of Alex. Ha! You? Explaining in English? No way. You're just a high school dropout. But if you insist, well, I guess you can give it a try.
Michael, the manager, said this, clearly mocking me. I quietly stepped forward and suddenly started giving a speech to the foreign visitors.
In English, of course. Thank you for coming to our company today. My name is Mike, and I will be giving you an overview of our company.
As I said this, Michael's eyes widened.
Alex and the rest of our team were also surprised.
So, let's get started with the explanation.
With that, I began my talk.
My name is Mike, and I'm 35 years old.
Even though I only have a middle school education, I work at a major multinational company.
It's honestly a stroke of luck that someone like me, a high school dropout, could land a job at such a big company. These days, it's almost certain that only those with decent college degrees can get a job here. It's clear that someone like me, with just a middle school education, wouldn't easily get hired.
In fact, the chance of getting rejected in an interview would be almost 100%. So I never imagined I'd be able to join such a prestigious company. My life has been a bit different, and I've had some unique experiences.
My mother passed away when I was young. My father had a job, but he was a heavy drinker, often too drunk to go to work.
As you can imagine, our household finances were strained. But as a kid, there was nothing I could do about it.
When I was about to graduate from middle school, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Smith, said, "You're smart, you should go to high school," but I replied,
"I'd like to, but we don't have the money."
Mr. Smith tried to think of ways to help, but nothing worked out.
If my dad hadn't been like that, I could have gone to high school. If my mom had been alive, my dad wouldn't have ended up this way. These thoughts were always on my mind.
Of course, dwelling on it didn't change anything, so it was pointless.
However, I couldn't help but blame someone.
Right after middle school, I started working at a steel factory. I worked there for about 5 years. I saved up the money I earned at the factory and decided to leave home. Well, leaving home was more like going on a solo trip for a while, but I planned to return home after the trip.
I intended to travel until I ran out of money. In the end, it lasted a few years.
I think I traveled around for about 3 years.
I remember those days fondly. I sometimes think back on those times.
Life was never easy, but I experienced a lot. Since joining this company, my life has become stable, and I'm fairly satisfied with how things are. I'm really proud to have joined such a big company, despite only having a middle school education. One night, our team leader, Alex, told me that our current manager, James, would be retiring at the end of the month.
James has been here since I joined the company. Oh man, I've been under him since I started.
It's going to be sad to see him go. Alex, who said this, is my team leader. He's in his late 30s and has gotten a bit chubby. He jokes, saying, "You can't lose weight once you hit middle age," but he's a cheerful person who laughingly says things like that.
Has James been here that long?
Yeah, 15 years ago, he was still a section chief. But he's been in the same department the whole time. We were really happy when he became the manager because he really cared about his subordinates.
Alex sighed, looking disappointed. Do they already know who's going to be the next manager?
Well, it's not decided yet, but there's a rumor that Michael might take over.
If it's him, I might quit,
Alex said with a wry smile.
Why's that?
I've heard he's caused problems in various places.
You wouldn't want someone like that here, would you? That's true.
Apparently, he graduated from Cambridge, and he has a thing against people with lower educational backgrounds.
So if Michael transfers here, you better watch out too. Hearing that gave me a bad feeling.
Soon after, James retired, and a new manager came.
Alex's prediction was spot on. Michael arrived.
Michael is a so-called elite who graduated from Cambridge University. He is in his 50s but looks a bit older. He was tall, skinny, and had a nervous-looking face.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Michael, and I'll be in charge of this department starting today.
After graduating from the prestigious Cambridge University, I joined this company. From now on, I won't tolerate any slackers in this department. Let's work together to build a great team. Michael made an intimidating introduction.
I looked over at Alex, who was clearly uninterested, massaging the right side of his neck with his left hand.
Noticing this, Michael shouted, "Hey! You, the one slacking off. Step forward." Everyone turned to see Alex. In that moment, I thought,
Alex has become the first target.
Alex looked surprised but stepped forward as instructed. "Listen up, everyone.
While I was speaking, this guy was massaging his shoulder.
Don't become a slacker like him. I despise lazy people. What's your name?" "Alex." "I see. I'll remember you. You can go back now." Alex returned to his seat, looking dejected.
From then on, Michael started picking on Alex for various reasons, giving him unreasonable tasks and making sarcastic comments.
One day, Alex caught a viral infection and was out of the office for about a week.
During that time, Michael seemed bored as he had no target to harass.
He came to my desk and said, "So, why do you think Alex is like that? Why do you think he's so lazy?"
Alex may seem that way, but he's a hard worker.
"Are you joking? You've seen how he normally is, right?"
No, he may act that way, but Alex is genuinely good at his job.
"I respect him."
Hearing this, Michael's eyes narrowed, and he said,
"You respect someone like that? What's your name?" Even though it had been 3 months since his transfer and he didn't know his subordinates' names, I answered curtly, "Mike." "I see." Michael then returned to his office. Eventually, Alex recovered and came back to the department. "Good morning." Alex greeted everyone. "Are you feeling better, Alex? Did you get enough rest? It must have been tough, right?" Everyone in the department greeted him. Then Michael appeared. "Good morning."
Everyone was so focused on talking to Alex that no one noticed Michael.
Michael got annoyed and he approached Alex. Then he said, "Oh, Alex. I didn't realize you were still with the company. I thought you might have retired." Hearing this, I couldn't help but blurt out, "You don't talk to someone who's just recovered from an illness like that." Michael turned to me and said, "You always have to talk back, don't you? I don't like that. Subordinates should follow their superiors, right? There are things I can follow and things I can't. I can't follow this." "Hey, Mike, it's okay. I'm not bothered, and you shouldn't."
Alex tried to stop me, but it was too late. Michael, now furious, said,
"Your name is Mike, right?
You'll regret this later," and stormed back to his office.
From then on,
Alex was no longer the target.
I was. Michael started picking on my work at every opportunity.
Just recently, he complained about something like this.
"Mike, come here for a moment." "Yes? The documents you sent to X Corporation were wrong, weren't they?"
"No, they were correct." "No, they were wrong."
"Why can't you admit your mistakes?" "I attached the documents that you approved, Michael. Are you blaming your mistake on me?"
This comment infuriated me, but I thought it was pointless to argue, so I stayed silent. I had double-checked those documents and had Michael approve them before sending them to X Corporation.
Seeing me stay silent, Michael said, "I heard you're a high school dropout. How did you manage to sneak into this company?" "What?
A big company like ours wouldn't hire a trashy high school dropout like you."
"Did you use some connections?" He looked at me with a mocking smile.
"This has nothing to do with work, so I'll take my leave,"
I said and walked out of his office. Returning to my desk, I reviewed the documents Michael had pointed out.
To my shock, the documents for X Corporation had been switched with those of another company. There was no way I could have missed such a mistake. It was clear that someone had deliberately swapped the files.
And the only person who could do that was Michael. But I had no proof.
I was furious but decided to endure it for the time being.
That evening, Alex invited me out for a drink. After work, we left the office and went to a small nearby bar.
We started with a beer and toasted each other. After ordering various dishes and finishing our meal, Alex started talking.
"Mike, are you okay?" "Okay? About what?" "You know, about Michael." "Oh. When I came back to work, you stood up for me. I was worried that Michael might be giving you a hard time because of it." "Well, yeah, he has been." "Weren't you also scolded by Michael over the X Corporation incident recently?"
Alex asked, so I explained to him what had happened that day.
That's awful. Why didn't you tell me about this sooner?
I suspected that the files had been swapped, but I had no proof.
What are you talking about?
Only a supervisor could access a subordinate's computer to change files.
No one else could do that without using an individual's account. That's true, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Yeah, with Michael, you never know what he might do. But if you have any trouble, come to me. I am your team leader, after all.
I was really grateful for Alex's support. Since the next day was a day off, we drank a lot that night. About 2 weeks later, it was announced that foreign visitors would be coming to our company.
During the morning meeting, Michael seemed to be in a good mood and said, "Good morning, everyone. I have some good news.
It was decided in yesterday's meeting that next month we will have foreign visitors coming to see our company.
Everyone, make sure you can speak at least a bit of English. When the guests arrive, I want you to guide them in English." After saying that, Michael added,
"Well, I graduated from Cambridge University, so I can speak English, but for those who can't,
start studying intensively from today until next month." Whether Michael could actually speak English or not, his constant bragging about Cambridge annoyed me. On the day the foreign visitors were to arrive, everyone was nervous. As I was reviewing the materials for the presentation, Michael entered the office with the visitors. There were 30 visitors. More than I had expected. Michael cheerfully said, "Good morning, everyone." His childlike display of, "I can speak English," was tiresome.
The visitors were from various countries. During the tour, an Indian man named Ahmed approached me.
Ahmed, in his 30s, mentioned he had a wife and kids back home. He said he wanted to move to Japan someday and work for a Japanese company. Ahmed had been studying Japanese diligently to achieve that goal. His Japanese was nearly perfect.
There were a few distinctive Indian accents, but nothing that made it hard to understand.
Isn't Japanese difficult?
Very difficult.
I thought about quitting many times.
But going to Japan is my dream, he said with a big smile. After the tour, we moved to a large conference room. Even though it was called a large room, it could only hold about 35 people.
So they started selecting employees from the department to attend the meeting.
Since we have a limited number of spots, we'll choose 5 people from this group.
Let's select by teams.
Our department had 25 people, divided into 5 teams.
Michael looked around the department.
The moment our eyes met, he smirked and said,
"All right, let's have Alex's team do it." My bad feeling was confirmed.
I glanced at Alex, who also looked reluctant. The other team members looked equally miserable as they stood up and moved to the front. As I got up and moved forward, Michael leaned in and whispered,
"Make sure you don't embarrass me." After everyone settled in the conference room, Michael said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my company."
Michael was clearly enjoying himself. But in my mind, I was thinking,
it's our company, not my company.
I wondered if he really graduated from Cambridge, given such a basic mistake. As I was pondering this, Michael said,
"Now, to continue,
you there.
You explain in English," pointing at Emily. Emily was the only woman in my team who was 30 and single. When the presentation was announced, she had said, "I'm terrible at English." Emily reluctantly stepped forward. However, Emily couldn't speak English well.
She nervously whispered to Michael,
"I'm sorry, Michael. I'm really bad at English."
Michael, looking exasperated, said, "I asked Emily because she's the only woman in Alex's team."
What a pathetic team. Very disappointing. Well,
I guess we'll have to rely on the team leader, Alex.
Michael smirked. He knew Alex was also bad at English. I remembered overhearing a conversation between Alex and Michael. "Michael, can I have a word?" "What is it?"
"Regarding the upcoming presentation for the foreign visitors, no one in our team is good at English. It would be smoother if another team handled it, and it would also reduce the pressure on our team members."
It's pathetic that you can't even speak English these days. Why do you even come to work? Well, all right. I don't want to be embarrassed either. I'll think about it. Thank you.
I happened to overhear this while coming back from the restroom. It must have been humiliating for the usually strong Alex to ask Michael for such a favor. But Alex was thinking about the team and swallowed his pride to ask Michael.
Michael ignored Alex's request and chose his team anyway. It seemed like harassment to me. Alex looked bewildered when Michael singled him out. I couldn't stand it any longer and stood up from my chair. I'll do it instead of Alex. Michael sneered at me and said, "Ha! You? Explaining in English? No way. You're just a high school dropout. But if you insist, well, I guess you can give it a try." Michael was clearly mocking me.
I quietly stepped forward and suddenly started giving a speech to the foreign visitors.
In English, of course. Thank you for visiting our company today. My name is Mike, and I will give you an overview of our company.
Michael's eyes widened in surprise.
Alex and the rest of the team were also shocked. Let's get started with the explanation.
With that, I began my presentation.
At the end, I asked, "Are there any questions?" One Arab man spoke up in broken English. I didn't understand well.
I responded in Arabic,
"Assalamu alaikum," and then explained in Arabic.
The Arab man smiled and said,
"MashaAllah. Thank you, brother. Your Arabic is amazing. I've never seen a Japanese person speak it so well." A French visitor then asked, "Can you speak French?"
I replied, "Yes, I can," and switched to explaining in French. Next, a Spanish visitor, followed by a German, each asked,
and I ended up giving the presentation in 5 different languages. Everyone was staring at me with their mouths open. Finally, Ahmed said, "Mike, that's amazing. Can you speak Hindi too?" I laughed and said, "No, I'm afraid not." Ahmed laughed and said, "I thought so."
Then he asked curiously, "By the way, earlier Michael said my company.
Is this his company?"
This question snapped Michael out of his daze, and he quickly replied,
"No, it's not my company."
Ahmed looked shocked and said,
"What? You're a liar.
You said my company before." He then explained to the other visitors in English. It seems this is not his company. The visitors began murmuring amongst themselves.
What does this mean? Why did he lie? So, whose company is it? Michael, flustered, said, "Wah, what is happening?" I turned to Michael and said, "Michael, you said my company. That makes everyone think you're the owner. You should have said our company." I didn't say that. Another lie. This man is a liar. I understand Japanese. You lied. You're a bad person. I'm not lying. And you were so mean to that woman and man earlier. They can't speak English, but your English is terrible too. You're a bad person. Treating your colleagues badly is not good. I saw everything. Ahmed, understanding Japanese, realized how Michael had been treating Emily and Alex. "You're terrible." At that moment,
the door to the conference room opened, and Mr. Thompson, the company president, walked in. Seeing Mr. Thompson, Michael immediately bowed and said, "Mr. Thompson."
I was curious about how the presentation was going. What is all this commotion? Michael, panicking, lied, "The presentation just ended, and we were all having a chat."
Ahmed, now furious, said,
"You liar. I am angry. The presentation is not over. I was talking, but you didn't answer. What's going on?" Hearing this, Mr. Thompson demanded an explanation from Michael. But Michael just kept making excuses.
Mr. Thompson, getting angry, said,
"Michael, enough of this nonsense." Well. Frustrated by Michael's evasive answers, Mr. Thompson said, "That's enough. Is there anyone here who can explain this situation?" and looked around.
The moment he saw me, he said,
"Oh, Mike. How have you been?" "I'm fine, thank you." "You look well, too, Mr. Thompson. How is John?" "Oh, both John and I are doing well. He's still wandering around, doing whatever he likes," Mr. Thompson said with a laugh.
Everyone looked puzzled by this exchange. Noticing this, Mr. Thompson introduced me to everyone.
"Mike here saved my son's life."
about 12 or 13 years ago. I had grown tired of my monotonous life in Japan and, more importantly, wanted to get away from my alcoholic father. So, I quit the factory where I had worked for 5 years and used my savings to travel around the world.
During my travels, I met John in Egypt. John's family owned a major multinational company.
Initially, he worked there, but during a family trip to Thailand,
he was exposed to different cultures and decided to travel alone to experience more. I told John,
I was traveling to escape my daily life.
Meeting another Japanese person in Egypt was rare. John and I quickly became friends. We spent many enjoyable days together. The day before we were to leave Egypt for Spain, I got a call from John. He sounded panicked and spoke quickly. "Mike, something terrible has happened." "What happened?"
I got into a taxi, but it seems to be taking me somewhere completely different. I said this isn't the way to Cairo, but the driver ignored me.
"What should I do?"
John was clearly very scared.
"John, first, calm down. What can you see around you?" "I see a road sign. It looks like we're heading towards Helwan." Hearing this, I quickly grabbed a taxi and headed for Helwan.
As we talked, I heard someone in the background speaking Arabic, saying, "Show me your belongings." I became anxious and told the taxi driver,
"Hurry up." Then I thought about checking John's location via GPS.
I opened the GPS app and saw John's location displayed.
Using the GPS, I headed towards him.
I kept the phone conversation going, stalling the man next to John.
Eventually, I reached John's location.
At the same time, I had also contacted the police, and local officers arrived around the same time.
We successfully rescued John.
At that moment, John promised,
"When you return to Japan, I'll make sure to thank you." When I finally returned to Japan, I had completely forgotten to contact John.
Part of it was because I felt awkward reaching out to someone who felt indebted to me.
About a year after I returned, John called me.
He laughed and said, "You returned to Japan but didn't contact me."
"That's mean."
This led to John, the son of Mr. Thompson, introducing me to this company. "Mike is an extremely talented individual," Mr. Thompson said proudly, as if praising his own son. Michael then interjected, But,
Mike is just a middle school graduate.
I graduated from Cambridge University."
Mr. Thompson looked exasperated and said, "Michael, I despise prejudice.
Deciding someone's worth based on their school or lack thereof is something I cannot tolerate." Ahmed, overhearing this, suddenly joined the conversation and laughed.
"Michael, you graduated from Cambridge University? Your English is terrible. How rude you are." Michael retorted. Ahmed calmly responded, "The rude one is you, Michael.
You were mean to Mike. He didn't deserve that."
Mr. Thompson, hearing Ahmed's words, said,
"Ahmed, and all of our esteemed visitors, I apologize for the unpleasant experience. I would appreciate it if you could provide feedback on what happened today to help improve our company.
Please email me your thoughts."
He then handed out his business card to all the visitors, which included his direct email address. Within a week, Mr. Thompson received emails from all the foreign visitors.
"The skinny supervisor is useless and can't even speak proper English. The way he treats his subordinates is terrible.
I wouldn't want to work or do business with such a company. The guy who spoke 5 languages at the end should be the boss.
Why doesn't the company make such a talented person a leader?"
Most of the emails criticized Michael's behavior or praised me. Seeing this, Mr. Thompson realized it would damage the company's image and decided to demote Michael.
Outraged, Michael declared,
"I won't be transferred, no matter what," and staged a strike in our department. Despite our and Mr. Thompson's attempts to persuade him, Michael refused to leave the office. Frustrated, Mr. Thompson contacted the police,
who eventually removed Michael from the premises. As a result, Michael was fired.
I felt an eerie sense of obsession from Michael, which scared me. At the same time, I truly realized that people don't change, no matter what happens.
If he had quietly accepted the transfer, he wouldn't have been fired.
Later, I heard that Michael tried to find a new job but couldn't, likely due to his age. Now, he works as a delivery man for a ramen shop in a neighboring city, according to a colleague who lives nearby.
The colleague laughed and said,
"Michael always bragged about graduating from Cambridge, but a dirty white apron suits him better." As for me, since that presentation, my evaluation improved, and I am now a supervisor in another department. I still occasionally go out for drinks with Alex, who remains in our old department and
Is set to be promoted to manager this spring.
I thought it would be great to have someone like Alex as a boss.
Alex told me that since I transferred, Emily seemed to have lost some of her spirit.
She looked so down after you left, so I invited her to join us today,
Alex said with a grin. Thanks to Alex's matchmaking, Emily and I started dating.
A year has passed since then.
Emily and I are still together.
This weekend, I plan to propose marriage to her.
Alex has been secretly cheering us on.
I'm still a junior employee, but I intend to work hard and contribute to the company.
And I am determined to marry Emily and make her happy.